Good morning, my dear students. I welcome you to the National University online class. During this pandemic, I feel proud to be the part of this National University online class lecture as a resource person. Please maintain the health rules. Our subject is English. This program is for B Honors First Year students. Course code 211101. And our course name is English Reading Skills. Today's lecture number 7. And title of this lecture is Most Significant Literary Terms and Rhetorics. And here I am, Khandagar Mushir Rahman, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Gaibandha, Government College, Gaibandha. I hope you all are fine today, and by this time you have attended the previous lectures. So let us see today's topic. As usually, today we are going to recap the previous lecture, last lecture, lecture number 6, checking the previous home task, definition of literary terms and rhetorics, importance of literary terms, some essential literary terms and rhetorics, and the class will be ended up giving you home task. So can you recall the last class? Recapping is a part of learning. I told you, you can remember. So what was our last lecture? Lecture number 6, what we did over there. I think you can remember if you think that what we learned. There was a sample question for part B, and we also learned how to write summary and précis. What is the difference between summary and précis? And what is the homework? You know that. Have you done the homework? For part B, it was very important that we have to write full answer in details for 4 marks each answer. Out of 8, you have to answer 5 questions. And we learned the basic difference between summary and précis and how to write a summary. I also tried to show you over there. And the homework was writing a summary after reading a text or history. Have you done it? If you have done, then you are welcome. If you have not done, you should do it, because you should practice writing themes and summaries also, sometimes précis also, to improve your writing skills. And that is the proof also of your reading skills. If you can understand a story well, then you can write a summary well. So let us see, today we are going to learn about literary terms. As a student of English literature, you must know some literary terms and rhetorics, their importance and their use. There are so many literary terms in English. If you look at the books, or if you go through the, literary forms, dramas, novels, poetry, there are a lot of literary terms. The writers use it, and rhetorics, figures of speech. So we must know it and we learn it properly. Let's see, what is literary terms? Literary terms refer to the technique, style, and formatting used by writers and speakers to masterfully emphasize, embellish, or strengthen their compositions. So you see, literary terms means technique, style, and formatting used by writers and speakers. So an orator, a speaker, also use literary terms in his or her speech masterfully. Why they use? To emphasize, embellish, or strengthen their compositions. Literary terms also include powerful figurative language that writers use to summon emotion, ranging from guilt to anger to bliss, and to allow us to see the world in a new and magical ways. That means writers use literary terms to represent a world in a different way to us. The term rhetoric refers to language that is used to inform, persuade, or motivate audiences. Rhetoric uses language to appeal mainly to emotions, but also in some cases to shared values or logic. So rhetorics are also used by the speakers and sometimes the writers. Why? To convince, to persuade, to motivate the audience or the readers. So actually, literary terms and rhetorics are very important. Look at the importance. Literary terms allow writers and speakers to make comments on society, politics, and trends. So you can guess now, you can understand why they use literary terms. Writers or speakers use literary terms to make comments. Through these terms, they make comments on society, politics, and trends. What is the tradition, what is the going on, social cultures, everything. The writers and speakers make comment using these literary terms. They make their writing or speech more vivid and lively towards the speaker or towards the audience or the reader. Rhetorical devices can be used to strengthen arguments which persuade and convince audiences. So sometimes the writers or the speakers use rhetorical devices to convince or persuade the audience, reader. Poetic figurative language can summon emotions and visions of nature and the world in unique and compelling ways. So poetic figurative language, it is very much common when we read poetry. You see there are a lot of figures of speech, figurative language. The poets use it to make their writing more musical or rhythmic and uh, very touchy towards the reader. Literary terms have the power to create serious, comedic, or whimsical moods via tools of persuasion, poeticism, and wordplay. So literary terms have the power to create serious, comedic, sometimes very serious, sometimes very comedic, or whimsical moods. So to create a mood, the writers use literary terms, persuasion, poeticism, or wordplay. So these are the importance of literary terms. Now let us see some essential literary terms or figures of speech that we come across while reading any literary text or stories. We usually find this type of literary terms or figures of speech. Now, what is figures of speech? Parts of speech, there are 8 parts of speech: noun, pronoun, adjective, verb, adverb, preposition, and conjunctions. And of course, you know the definition of parts of speech. Parts of speech means each and every word is the parts of speech. The name of the words according to their function in a sentence. There are 8 names of the words, as I mentioned now, noun, pronoun, So parts of speech are the names of the words according to their function in a sentence. On the other hand, a figure of speech is a word or phrase, figures of speech. It's actually ornamental use, decoration of the language. A figure of speech is a word or phrase that possesses a separate meaning from its literal definition. It can be a metaphor or simile designed to make a comparison. It can be the repetition of alliteration or the exaggeration of hyperbole to provide a dramatic effect. So sometimes the writers use these literary terms, simile, metaphor, figures of speech. Figures of speech or ornamental use of language. As we decorate our house, to beautify our house, so writers or speakers decorate their writings or speech using some ornamental expressions. That is called figures of speech. For example, simile, metaphor that we are going to see here. Alliteration is a figures of speech, you see. Alliteration is the repetition of the beginning consonant sounds of neighboring words. So what is alliteration? Alliteration is a figures of speech. It is the repetition of the beginning consonant sounds of neighboring words. Alliteration can in its simplest form reinforce 1 or 2 consonant sounds, as in this line from William Shakespeare's Sonnet 12, you see. When I do count the clock that tells the time. So if you look at the sentence, you see count, the red marked one, the consonant sound ka, and clock. Here is ka, count, here is clock, ka. The repetition, the same consonant sounds ta, ta, tells the time. So these type of repetition of consonant sounds is figures of speech, name is alliteration. More example is here: she sells seashells, pretty as a picture and dead as a doornail. You see? She sells. So sa sound has been repeated. Sa, sa, sa. She sells seashells. In this phrase, pretty as a picture, beautiful like a picture, and dead as a doornail. So it is dead. Da sound has been repeated. So the repetition of consonant sounds in neighboring words, closely related words, is called alliteration. So this literary term, a figure of speech, to make it rhythmic or give musical tune, poets use or writers use this alliteration. So anaphora and assonance. In this slide, look at anaphora and assonance. What is anaphora? Anaphora is a technique where several phrases or verses begin with the same word or words. Examples include. So it's a phrase in a verse, a line where each phrase is started with the same word. I came, I saw, I conquered. Said by Julius Caesar here. It's a quotation: mad world, mad kings, mad composition. in the play King John, written by William Shakespeare. So this is the quotation. You see the repetition of same word. I came, I saw, I has been repeated. So this is anaphora. Anaphora is a technique where several phrases or verses begin with the same word. I came is a verse line, I mean, phrase. If you think phrase or it's the clause, it started with same. I saw, it started with I conquered, it started with I. So repetition of same starting, same word in a phrase. Mad world, mad kings, mad composition. So this is the example of anaphora. What is assonance? It's a like alliteration. We saw in alliteration that is the repetition of consonant sounds, but in assonance you see vowel rhyme is the repetition of vowel sounds. So the repetition of consonant sound is alliteration, but assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds, not just letters. It's the repetition of sounds, not A, B, C, D. It's a, ba, ta, ka, like that. Across a line of text or poetry, the words have to be near enough to each other that the similar vowel sounds are noticeable. The etymology of assonance is the Latin assonare, meaning to sound. That means the word assonance has been derived from Latin word assonare, that means to sound. Look at this example. Go slow on the road. So long O sound has been repeated. Go slow on the road. So O, O, O. Repetition of vowel sound. Or the short A sound has been repeated, these two words, sell the wedding bells, sell bell, see? The repetition of A sound. So repetition of vowel sounds is assonance. What is allusion? That is another important literary terms that we find in our literature when we read any literary text. Allusion, that is very important, you need to know, because when you write, you will do these things, you will allude sometimes, and when you read text, you will find reference. So allusion is basically a reference to something else. It's when a writer mentions some other work, historical person or events, or refers to an earlier part of the current work. That means if a writer use examples, or in his writing, if he or she uses any other literary text or any other historical events, that is a reference, and that is called in the terms of literature allusion. So the verb from form of allusion is to allude. So the allusion has come from the verb allude. Allude means, so alluding to something is the same thing as making an allusion to it. So referring something. Alluding means to referring something. For example, you are acting like such a Scrooge. If you say someone, you are acting like such a Scrooge. What does it mean? Scrooge is a character in the famous book of Dickens, A Christmas Carol. So here, when you are saying this comment to someone, you are acting like such a Scrooge. Actually, you are telling that this line means that the person is being miserly, very miser, who does not want to spend much money, and selfish, just like the character Scrooge from the story. So there is a character named Scrooge in the story, A Christmas Carol, written by Charles Dickens. And in that story, the character Scrooge is very miser, he does not want to spend money, and very selfish. So if you say someone, you are acting like such a Scrooge, so you are actually meaning you are referring the character from the story A Christmas Carol. So this sentence is an example of allusion. I think you have got it. Yes? Have you understood what is allusion? If you refer someone, if you say I am not Hamlet, so you are referring the character Hamlet of William Shakespeare. So this type of reference is allusion. Now archaism and annotation. Archaism, when you are reading literature, especially in poetry, you will get this type of use of archaism. So that's why you need to know what is archaism. And archaism is an old word or expression that is no longer used with its original meaning, or is only used in specific studies or areas. The word archaism is derived from the Greek word archaikos, meaning ancient. Look at the example. This above all to thine own shall be true. So this is a quotation. This often quoted line from Shakespeare's Hamlet has an archaism. The word, look at the word thine, red mark word, thine. So thine means what? This is not a usual, regular word. This is an old word, ancient word, old word. As well as archaic sentence structure is also not a regular structure. This is also unfamiliar and means old structure. To thine own self be true. The modern translation would be, this above all, be true to yourself. So here thine means you, to thine own self to be true. So thine is an example of archaic word. I mean old word, ancient word that has no regular use, but sometimes the poets use to maintain their or rhythm or to maintain their rhyme scheme in their poem. They use this type of archaic words. What is annotation? Annotation is marking up a text and or marking notes so that we can better comprehend what we read. Next, we can utilize the meanings with margin notes, literally written notes on the margin, to summarize main ideas, ask questions, and learn new vocabulary. What does it mean? Have you got it? Annotation means when you are reading any text, any story, drama, novel, or poetry, whatever it is, you are marking notes, you are writing something on your book or your beside the lines, or sometimes you are red marking or highlighting some of the words or writing in your notebook some of the important events and dates for your better understanding later on. So that is called, this work is called annotation. So annotation is marking up a text and or making notes so that we can better comprehend, we can better understand what we read. So this is a work when reading. When we are reading, we do this work. We sometimes we highlight, sometimes we red marked or mark some words or events or dates. Sometimes we write down in our notebook. So this is called annotation, and that helps us to understand the text. Next, we can utilize the margins with margin notes, literally written notes on the margin. I mean, beside the line, beside the page we write sometimes, that helps us to understand the story. That is annotation. And what is aphorism? You are very much familiar with Francis Bacon. You have a text of his studies, and over there you learned what is aphorism, I think. An aphorism is a brief saying or phrase that expresses an opinion or makes a statement of wisdom without the flowery language of a proverb. So in proverb, there is flowery language. So there is a difference between aphorism and a proverb. You should not mix up with these two things. Aphorism is a brief saying or phrase that expresses an opinion or makes a statement of wisdom without the flowery language of a proverb. So aphorisms are often used to teach a lesson while speaking in plain terms. If you can remember, studies serve for delight, for ornament, and for ability. The very first sentence of Office Studies written by Francis Bacon. The very terse, I mean, is short, small sentence, but it gives a lot of meaning. If you illustrate this sentence, you can write more 2 or 3 pages if you try to interpret the sentence. So, I mean, precise, very precise and terse sentence, but has a wisdom. Aphorisms are often used to teach a lesson while speaking in plain terms. For example, look at the example here. A bad penny always turns up is an aphorism for the fact that bad people or things are bound to turn up in life. What does it mean? That means in our life, we must sometimes face bad people in our everyday life, in our society, everywhere, in our office, in our schools, college, in our society, market, shop. Sometimes in our life, bad people come across. But what do we have to do? We must have to deal with them when they do. When they do misbehave with us, when they come across in our life, we should handle with them tactfully. But it is true that bad means bad people will come. It is not that you will always get good people around you. The aphorism is different from a proverb. Look at the difference between aphorism and proverb. The aphorism is different from a proverb. A proverb is an anonymous expression of a general truth, while an aphorism is one's personal experience. Proverbs are traditional, but aphorisms are individual. Look at the example of a proverb. Man proposes, God disposes, is an example of a proverb. So what is the difference here? Aphorism is a personal experience. It is a thought, it is an idea, it's a wisdom that has been given by a person. Like Francis Bacon has said about studies serve for delight, for ornament, and for ability. That is an example of aphorism. But what is proverb? Proverb is a traditional saying. Years after years, people believe this type of thought and ideas, like man proposes, God disposes. Who said it, when said it, we don't know. This is not personal, it's traditional. Have you got it? Okay. Now look at diction and imagery. Diction is very simple. Diction means actually choice of words. That means a writer Each and every writer has his own choice of words, their own style. That is his diction. Look at the meaning here. Diction is the careful selection of words to communicate a message or establish a particular voice or writing style. A particular writer chooses a particular type of words and phrases. For example, Milton uses bombastic, hyperbolic, unusual, allusive, and Latinized words, but George Orwell, another writer, uses simple, lucid, and common words. So some writers, right, each and every writer has his own diction, I mean choice of words, what type of words he or she will use in his essay or in his poems. That is the uh, option of the, it depends on the writer. So diction means choice of words. Imagery is descriptive language used to appeal to a reader's senses. So touch, taste, five senses: touch, taste, smell, sound, and sight. By adding these details, it makes our writing more interesting. So why the poets or writers use imagery? Image means what? Imagery has come from the word image. Image means, image means picture. Picture in words, that is image. When a writer is writing words and we think that when we are reading, we guess that we are seeing the picture of that setting of that scene. So that is use of images called imagery. Imagery is descriptive language used to appeal to the reader's senses: touch, taste, smell, sound, and sight, five senses. By adding these details, it makes our writing more interesting. So here is an example of how adding imagery enhances your writing. Look at this original sentence. She drank water on a hot day. She drank water on a hot day. Added imagery. When you have added some images, now see the sentence maybe like this: the cool, refreshing water quenched her thirst as the scorching sun radiated on her. So you see, now this is giving the image, the picture. When we read this sentence, we guess that we are seeing the cool, refreshing water quenched her thirst as the scorching sun radiated on her. So it's the very picturesque description here. So that is image, example of image. I mean imagery, use of images. 5 literary imagery examples here. Visual, that means it is sight, seeing, appeals to our sense of sight. The crimson apple glistened in her hand. So this is regarding our sight, seeing. The crimson apple glistened in her hand. Auditory means appeals to our sense of sound. The roaring thunder frightened the boy. The sound, the roaring thunder, frightened, panicked the boy. Olfactory appeals to our sense of smell. The athlete's sweaty gym clothes left a musty odor in the laundry room. Odor means, bad smell. Gustatory appeals to our sense of taste. The warm, salty broth soothed her sore throat as she ate the soup. So it is the example of what? Appeals to our sense of taste. The warm, salty broth soothed her sore throat as she ate the soup. So salty, it is a matter of taste. Tactile, this is the 5th sense, appeals to our sense of touch. Prickly cactus paused as an obstacle to the man as height. So here cactus, prickly, there is prickles on the cactus. Paused as an obstacle, became an obstacle, hindrance to the man as height. So these are the 5 senses, and these are the examples of images, use of imagery. Connotation and denotation. You know what is connotation and denotation? I told you in one lecture that each and every word has 2 types of meaning: connotative meaning and denotative meaning. That is the things here. We look at the meaning of connotation is the indirect meaning of a word. It is the suggestion or associated, contextual significance implied by a word. For example, the connotation of the word bird may be a swift moving girl having a sweet voice. The word bird may be used as a connotation, contextual meaning, to mean a swift moving girl having a sweet voice. On the other hand, denotation is the direct meaning. So connotation is indirect, contextual meaning. Denotation is the direct meaning, dictionary meaning. And here bird means bird. The denotation of the word bird is a feathered creature that can fly. So bird means bird, the creature that can fly. Irony is another important literary terms that you will you will find in most of the writings. Irony is a statement or a situation or an action which actually means the opposite of its surface meaning. So we also do irony in our everyday life sometimes. That's why you know what is irony. Irony means a statement or situation. It may be irony of statement or irony of situation or irony of an action, which actually means the opposite of its surface meaning. Superficially, it means one, but actually, it is the different meaning. Look at the examples. Brutus is an honorable man. It is said by Antony. It is a quotation from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, famous drama. Antony, Caesar's friend, says this in his oration, his speech over the dead body of Caesar. This appreciation of Brutus really means that Brutus, who killed Caesar, is an ignoble man. So, when Antony is telling that Brutus is an honorable man after the death of his friend Julius Caesar, so actually he is not showing or appreciating Brutus. He is meaning Brutus is an, ignoble, dishonorable man because he is a killer actually. Brutus is the killer of Caesar, Julius Caesar. So by this speech, he is not praising, rather he is, dishonoring Brutus. Personification, synecdoche, and symbol. These are the other literary terms. Personification, that is important because when you will when you go through the poems, you will see a use of personification. Personification gives human qualities to non-living things or ideas. The qualities of human being. When the qualities of human beings are given to non-living things, then it is called personification. Look at these examples. Justice is blind. So blind, man is blind. Man can be blind. Man has eyes. Justice. So justice is blind. So the quality of man, human being, has been given to justice. It's an idea. It's not a living thing. So this is an example of personification. The sun smiled down on them. Sun is smiling. Man can smile. Human being smiles or cry. Sun is smiling. So sun is an object, non-living thing. So non-living thing has been given the quality of living things. Human beings. That's why this is an example of personification. You can make so many examples like this. Synecdoche occurs when a part is represented by the whole, or conversely, the whole is represented by the part. Using a single part of a thing when we mean the whole, and sometimes by using the whole, we mean a part of that whole thing. That is use of synecdoche. Examples, look at this example. Wheels. Sometimes we use the word wheels to mean a car. The police to mean one policeman. We use the word Coke to mean any Coca-Cola drink. So these are the examples of synecdoche. Using a part. Sometimes we say that I have read Shakespeare's. If you say I have read Shakespeare's, that means you have read the works of Shakespeare's. So this is synecdoche. Symbol is a thing which stands for something else. Symbol is a thing which stands for something else. So a symbolic meaning, it is basically an image which by virtue of recurrent uses assumes its special meaning. So symbol, you will find a lot of symbols in literature, especially poetry. The writers use symbolic meaning, a lot of symbols to make it picturesque, or sometimes to give it serious thoughts to the audience or reader. The writers use symbols. Examples, a rose stands for beauty. Sometimes the word rose stands for beauty. A dove for peace. So, these are the common symbol, the word rose. You are a rose I see. When someone is telling that you are a rose I see, that means you are very beautiful. So rose is a symbol of beauty. Subjectivity and objectivity, that is very important. These are the two very important literary terms that you must know, because when you are reading any text, you must know what type of text is, what type of writing it is. Is it subjective or objective writing? Even when you are writing something, you should know what type of writing you are writing. Are you writing subjective or objective? Your writing is objective or subjective. That's why these two terms are very important. Subjective is the mode of expression. in which information about the writer's personal life find place. Here, writer's own likes and dislikes are given importance. For example, in Wordsworth's poetry, we find that Wordsworth, in his childhood, stole birds, eggs, and a boat for childish pleasure. You see, very funny about Wordsworth, the poet. In his childhood, what he used to do? He stole birds, eggs, and a boat for childish pleasure. For pleasure, just for pleasure, he did it. His poems also reveal that he loved nature and believed that God was present in nature. So after reading Wordsworth poetry, we can learn about Wordsworth. That's why Wordsworth is a subjective poet. That means he used subjectivity in his writing. What is objectivity? Objectivity is a mode of expression that is the opposite of subjectivity, in which writer's personal life remains absent from his writing. That means after reading the text, after reading the story or poems, we cannot understand anything about the writer. That is objective writing. For example, Shakespeare was an objective dramatist because he, in his plays, did never directly say what he was, what he liked, or what he disliked. After going through the dramas or plays of William Shakespeare, we cannot understand about Shakespeare's liking and dislikings. That's why he is objective writer. Anything objective sticks to the facts. I mean, objective means that it sticks to the fact. As you know, report writing, a writer, a newscaster, when a reporter writes a report, that is objective writing. But anything subjective has feelings. Subjective means there is the feelings and emotions of the writer himself or herself. Objective and subjective are opposites that I told. Objective, an example you see, it is raining. That is an objective expression. But if you say, I love the rain, that is subjective. So here is your feelings, emotions has been added. Have you got it? Okay. So subjective and objective. Now see euphemism and hyperbole. These are the two literary terms. Euphemism, I mean, oil expression of sad things or harsh things. Euphemism is a mild, indirect, or vague term that often substitutes a harsh, blunt, or offensive term. That means any harsh or offensive terms, when you use pleasant word to express those harsh or offensive words, that is called euphemism. Examples: a little thin on top instead of going bold. Bald-headed man, you know, bald-headed man without any hair. So without telling going bold, if someone say a little thin on top, I mean on the head, top means here head. So this is an expression of going bold. You can understand this one, passed away. Passed away means what? Died. So instead of died, his father has died, we can say, it sounds harsh. It sounds, I mean, harsh. It does not sound good actually when we say his father has died. But if we say his father has passed away, it sounds is mild. That's why this mild expression of harsh things is called euphemism. Hyperbole is bombastic expression, I mean exaggeration for emphasis or effect. To emphasize something, sometimes we use hyperbolic words or phrases or sentences. Writers do this also. Look at this sentence. I have told you to stop 1,000 times. Is it possible to say the same things 1,000 times? So this is the hyperbolic word. I have told you to stop 1,000 times. It's impossible to 1,000 times. So that is just for saying. That must have cost $1 billion. So this $1 billion is an exaggeration. As Wordsworth said in the daffodils, you know, I saw at a glance thousands of daffodils. So thousands of daffodils, he did not count. So that is an hyperbolic expression, exaggeration. Simile, metaphor, onomatopoeia, oxymoron, these are the other literary terms. As I told you, there are so many. It's not possible to show you all the literary terms or figures of speech in this lecture. So you have to read some books. I'll suggest at the end of the class. I'm giving you some ideas. I mean, some important literary terms here. A simile, you see, a simile is a comparison between two unlike things, two different things. When we say one thing is like another, and you use the word like or as here. You see, example, oh, my love's like a red, red rose. So this is an example of like, the word is like, simile. A metaphor makes a comparison between two unlike things or ideas. Time is money, the world is a stage, so different thing. Time is one thing, money is another thing. So when you say one thing is another, that is metaphor. That is also a comparison. Onomatopoeia means it is the word or term that sounds like what is describing. The word itself gives its meaning. Whoosh, it has no meaning. Whoosh means whoosh, splat, budge, buzzing sound. So these words are called the use of onomatopoeia. And oxymoron is two contradictory terms used together. So oxymoron means two contradictory: peace, force; sweet, sorrow; terrible, beauty. So these are the two contradictory words placed together. That is oxymoron. Now theme. What is theme? In the last class we learned about summary and précis writing. But another thing is theme writing. That is also important. You have to write sometimes the theme of the poem and text. The theme of a literary work is a salient abstract idea that emerges from the treatment of its subject matter. Common themes are love, war, deceit, revenge, fate, destiny, etc. in the literature. The theme of literary work deals with an abstract idea or concept, while the subject matter deals with the concrete actions that bring us that idea. That means there is a difference between theme and subject matter, you know. Theme is an abstract idea like love, war, but subject matter is what? The actions that happens in the story. That is subject matter. I will give you one example that will make it clear the difference. Two types of themes are there. Central theme means the central or main message of a literary work. Minor themes means other themes, less important messages of a literary work. Now let us see. The author, in this example, you can understand the difference between subject matter and theme. The author explores the theme through the subject matter of his or her work, and then when telling the story arrives at some kind of thematic statement. That's another thematic statement. The thematic statement of a work is rarely said explicitly. Instead, people interpret it through characters, actions, and events within a book. Here is an example of theme found in the short story, The Gift of the Magi. You have a short story, The Gift of the Magi, written by O. Henry. What is the theme of the story, you know? Love, charity, sacrifice. These are the theme, abstract idea, abstract noun. Love, charity, theme. And what is the subject matter? Subject matter is, you know, the story of Jim and Della, a young couple struggling financially during Christmas. I think you know the story, you have read by this time, of course. So that is the subject matter. Subject matter is the function, the activities that is happening in the story. But what is theme? The inner thing, the abstract idea. What is the main message, or what is the main idea the writer is going to show? That is the is going to deal with. That is love, charity, sacrifice. These are the things as a theme. Thematic statement. This sentence, this comment you can make after that story. Love is more important than material possessions. After reading the story, you can come to this type of thematic statement that gives us the theme of the story. Love is more important than material possessions. This is thematic statement. So I have tried to show you some of the important literary terms in this short time, but there are so many. You have to read some books for this. If you understand these literary terms, then you will really enjoy literature. Otherwise, you will not find, I will not find comfort while reading any, novels, dramas, or poems. That's why you must try to learn these literary terms and figures of speech. So take your homework, learn all the given literary terms or figures of speech. Try to pick up the figures of speech from your reading text. When you are reading any poems, try to find out the figures of speech and try to use them in your writing and speech. Those figures of speech, literary terms. You must share your learning with your friends or peers, fellows. That will improve your, understanding if you share your learning with your friends. And suggested books for literary terms: An ABC of English Literature, written by Dr. Muhammad Mofizur Rahman; A Glossary of English Literary Terms by M.H. Abrams. You can also find Dictionary of Literary Terms and Literary Theory by J.A. Cardon. So these are the suggested books. So I hope you will try to read this, learn these literary terms. As a student of literature, if you really want to enjoy literature, you have to do this, and then you will really feel comfort while reading any literary text. So have a nice time. Bye-bye. Thank you again for attending the class. Stay home, stay safe, pray for all. I hope to see you next time, inshallah.